The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
Okay, let's go.
Donald Trump and Barack Obama arguably had different speaking styles. Now, which is better and which resonates with the American voters?
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead.
They killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body.
He died like a dog.
Yet his death does not mark the end of our effort.
A beautiful dog. A talented dog.
We give thanks to the countless intelligence and counterterrorism professionals who've worked tirelessly to achieve this outcome.
And I don't get any credit for this, but that's okay. I never do.
So Donald Trump is not a very bright guy. He does not have good intent. But people get the sense that he's honest, when he's the least honest.
Authentic.
Because he looks like he's authentic, because he's not reading off a prompter like you robots.
All right, happy Monday. Thought I would start off with that funny clip. Man, those two guys really definitely do have completely different styles. And I wanted to play that because I actually posted that on Instagram on Friday, and oh my goodness, it has received 35,000 views and then like 400 comments. And the crazy part is, man, I was reading through the comments and God, it's polarizing. It's really polarizing. You know, I will say, my personal opinion, obviously, say what you will about Obama. He's probably one of the best public speakers I've ever heard. I like to think I'm a pretty good public speaker, but that dude is legit. I mean, he's a really, really good speaker. He really is. He's an excellent orator. He's very articulate. He does a great job with like maintaining eye contact with the entire room. Like when I watch him speak, I've actually picked up a lot of like tips from him in terms of making eye contact with everyone in the room. He does a nice job with his hands. He's a good speaker with his hands. And the guy just, he conveys the message in manageable chunks. Actually, that's another thing I've learned from him over the years is to, kind of talk in sound bites. And that way people can digest things. And then on the other hand, you've got Trump, and yeah, I mean, I know he's brash, and I know that it's almost, I don't know if I'd say the opposite of Obama, but it's definitely not nearly as articulate. But I will say there is something about keeping it real like that. I mean, there really is. There's something about the way he keeps it real, and it resonates with people. It does. It resonates with people. Some people, they feel like they can relate to him. I mean, a lot of people who, his supporters, I think, definitely feel like he's relatable to them, which is funny if you think about it, because obviously if you measure them and compare them on the metric of like success and wealth and all that, they're not relatable at all. But the way he talks, they feel like he's, relating to them and talking for them. So there's something about, that combination of keeping it real and just, I don't want to say dumbing it down because I don't even think Trump tries to do that. But again, like I said, I mean, it's real talk from him and people feel like it's not scripted. It's not on a teleprompter. And so, again, it resonates with a certain group. But getting back to that clip and then people's comments, it's like people go from 0 to 100 immediately. And obviously you had like, a tremendous amount of people that were supportive of Obama, tremendous amount of people that were supportive of Trump. And then you had people that were not supporting or advocating for either, but just attacking one or the other. It's like pulling up information about, well, Obama dropped the most drones in the Middle East, which is true. And then on the other side, you had, people just, going ballistic with Trump. Trump definitely garners a very strong visceral reaction. Although I have to tell you, it's been pretty interesting and a little bit surprising for me because, Obama's been very, I don't want to say he's been pro-Palestine because I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but he's been very vocal about his advocating of a ceasefire. He's been very vocal about talking about, really a two-state solution for the Israel-Palestine situation. He's been very vocal about talking about how the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and of Gaza needs to end. And, and that's another thing that, when I look at people like Obama or Trump or, I'm going to play something from Piers Morgan where he was talking about Angelina Jolie, who seems to have kind of, reemerged again, advocating for the ceasefire. I've never been one to put any of those people on a pedestal. Even the president of the United States, I absolutely respect the office of the president of the United States. And, regardless of my views on certain presidents, I respect the fact that they are president of the United States. I think that garners a level of respect, regardless of your feelings about that person. And then the same thing that goes with, people like Angelina Jolie or celebrities. I've never put those people on a pedestal. To me, it's just people are people, really at the end of the day, they truly are. But I will say the one thing that I do think when it comes to, folks on that level or people like Queen Rania of Jordan, who obviously has come out, very pro-Palestine. I do think they have access to greater information than the normal person does. Obviously, someone like President Obama or President Trump or Queen Rania, there's no way they have access to the same information as us, which is basically just the internet for that matter, and what we're listening to and reading and things like that. They obviously have access to a much more personal and high level of information, and probably even on the bigger celebrity level. I'm sure they have access to things information-wise that we don't. So, I do put a little bit of weight into that. And again, I don't put weight into who's saying it. I put weight into what I feel like their access to the information that I might not have, and then being able to, basically express an opinion based on a data set that, I don't have. I guarantee you, if I had access to all the information those guys had, not only would my stances be stronger, but they would probably be even more well thought out, because again, it's like you see all the cards, or you know what all the cards are. So anyway, the other thing about that Trump-Obama thing, and just really in general, man, I've come to the realization with this Israel-Palestine thing, it actually kind of reminds me of, obviously very different and much more important because human lives are at stake. Although one could argue human lives were at stake with COVID and the vaccine and all that. But, it's kind of like back during that discussion. I mean, that was also such a argumentative and opinionated discussion from people that it became very difficult to change people's opinions on stuff. Now, I will say, in particular to the vaccine, I think people's opinions are changing as, different fact sets are coming out. And quite frankly, I think that there are symptoms and unfortunate occurrences that are taking place, that really become hard to rationalize, without maybe maybe looking at, something that you did, which prior to all of this you had not done to your body, and then a result henceforth. How'd you like that? How'd you like the way I phrased all that? But again, it's this thing is a tough one. I have a couple Jewish friends that I love talking to, and we continue to talk about all of this stuff. This is aside from these are my friends that are very emotional, and they are very one-sided, and it's like, again, and I always say, I'm like, dude, I don't have a horse in this race. You can't, if it gets you mad, if I challenge certain things, let's not talk about it. Cause again, I don't want to ruin our friendship over this. And actually it's not even ruin our friendship. I mean, that becomes a personal decision if somebody's going to allow something to do that. I don't want to upset people. I really don't. Especially I have one very close friend. I think the world of this guy. He just had a baby, and I'm like, dude, let's not talk about this stuff. Like, you just had a baby. You need to have good positive energy for the little man. And then finally the other night, he's like, hey, I'm sorry I get so emotional about stuff, but obviously this is very personal to me. And I was like, it's all right, dude. It's totally fine. Like if anything, use me to vent, vent on me. Take it all out on me if you want to. I don't mind, as long as you understand, half the things you say I agree with, and the other half I don't agree with. And if I don't agree with, I'm going to share with you why I don't agree with that. And, I just want to make sure you're receiving that properly. So the learning I had over the weekend, and the learning from, this beginning part of this segment is, at the end of the day, oh God, I do say that a lot. You're just going to have to make your own decisions. I mean, really, you're going to have to make your own decisions, and you're going to have to take in the facts, whether that's from this podcast or in general. You're going to have to look at the data, look at interviews, listen to clips. Obviously I will say, I do think it is a good idea to listen to, differing sets of clips. And what's interesting with this, and it's a little bit of I've talked about this before. It's a flip. It's a flip on, during COVID and with all of that stuff. I would say all the folks that, believed in pretty much everything, believed in everything about COVID and the vaccines and all that. They were very aligned with MSNBC, CNN, CNBC, all of that, ABC, CBS, that world. The folks that were skeptical about everything, and the folks that, maybe thought there was something different going on than just, a plain old virus. I mean, if anything, Fox was the place for that. And really at that time, it was Tucker Carlson that was pretty much the main voice of, let's say, the skepticism on that side. But I would say that whole crew, Sean Hannity, what's her name, Laura Ingrams, who else, Jesse Waters, all that Fox crew, they were all on the skeptical side. And then MSNBC, CNBC, CNN, all that were all on the not skeptical side. And it's pretty much flipped on this issue. So right now, when it comes to pro-Israel, I stand with Israel, it is gung-ho Fox. I mean, not only Fox, but really everyone in the Republican Party. And I'm going to do a much, I guess, deeper explanation about this, because I still am gathering some data. But what I have realized is, and I think I've alluded to it before, it's really all linked to religion, and it's all linked to Christianity, which then is linked to Judaism. That Judeo-Christianity, I guess, which goes back to the Bible. And, in the Bible, the Jews are the chosen people, and that's it. I mean, that's it. It kind of stops there. And so when you look at, I mean, literally, I'm not kidding, the entire Republican Party, and I see this from most, well, I don't know if I see it from my Republican friends as much, but definitely the media, the right-leaning media, and then the entire Republican Party in Congress and the Senate. I mean, it is like 100% I stand with Israel. I really can't think of any Republican that has come out, even advocating for a ceasefire, okay? Like, I don't personally find advocating for a ceasefire as, standing with Palestine. I feel like that is something that, with the way things have gone since October 7th, which has pretty much been a unilateral assault by Israel, and then kind of nothing on the Hamas side. The death toll as of Sunday night when I looked was close to 12,000 Palestinians. And now the Israeli number has been reduced to 1,200 from the original 1,400, because they came out and said, some of the bodies that they found that day belonged to Hamas soldiers. So now that number, is 1,200. But again, even just a ceasefire, you've got no Republicans advocating for that. And that all really does line up with Christianity, Judaism, the Bible, all that stuff. And I am learning that. I really am. It's actually been very interesting. So I'm going to get back to that more. Okay, next clip. I've talked about Piers Morgan a lot. I've brought his name up several times because honestly, I do think he's probably doing the best coverage of this situation, and he's bringing on, great guests from both sides and having some really, really heated but really interesting discussions. And he had one last week. I've been meaning to play a couple segments of this interview, but he had 3 different people on. And so the first clip, he started really questioning a gal named Brooke Goldstein, and she was, on the I guess the advocate for the Jewish side of things. And I guess she tweeted out something about him. And what I liked was Piers kind of put her on the hook for it and said, "Hey, you tweeted out this pretty harsh sentiment challenging my journalism, and I'd like you to describe it." So listen to this interaction.
Lengthy attack on me and my journalistic rigor. I mean, that seems to me a pretty strong way to start this debate. Because what you seem to be saying is that so long as I have pro-Israeli voices, that's fine. As long as I have a lot of people like you who just have one view of this, then I'm a fair journalist. But the moment I stray into people who are pro-Palestinian in a very passionate manner, then somehow I'm failing in my journalistic duty. And I would say that right there is part of the problem, Brooke, because I have tried to turn this show into a genuinely fair platform for all sides, all arguments, all voices. And I think we've been getting the audiences that reflects, which is people like it. They like to hear both sides. Why don't you?
So, Piers, thank you for bringing up that tweet. First, I want to say that's not what I'm saying at all. There's pro-Palestinian, there's pro-Israel, but you've been having pro-Hamas people on your platform, and you're giving them an opportunity to spew their virulent anti-Semitism and their propaganda that justifies Hamas terrorism. It's one thing to debate issues of geopolitics and national...
Brooke.
This is where I really liked how he pressed her. He kept asking, "Can you name one?"
Can you name one?
Right in front of me, I can't. I was replying to something that
just name
you
one.
Had someone on that I was
Name
replying.
one guest I've had in a month.
I don't have the names on me right now, but I...
So basically, she couldn't name one, and then she went off on a tangent about, something totally different. And so again, as you listen to these interviews and these clips that I play, or, segments you see on the news yourself, just pay attention. Pay attention if people are, and again, this is both sides, but pay attention if people are actually answering the question that's asked, or are they trying to flip the script and, move on, or trying to redirect it in another direction. Okay, let me play another clip for you.
Are you saying that every image we see on our television screens has been fabricated from somewhere else, that every child we see pulled from rubble and taken to a hospital running out of supplies is a fake picture?
And in Mosul, there weren't difficult pictures as well. War is very, very difficult. We don't want to see civilian casualties. But who is responsible for this war?
Are you saying, there is collateral damage of civilians, or are you not saying that? In destroying Hamas, in destroying Hamas, you will destroy Gaza. Do you accept that is
I don't accept
end
that.
result
I don't accept. I don't accept
your
that.
campaign? Well,
I don't accept that.
You yourself
I think
that Hamas
I don't
hides
accept
in
the rationale.
that they use human shields to protect themselves. So how do you get to Hamas without killing civilians, which is what seems to be happening?
So we are going to make a maximum effort to hit the Hamas machine without doing what we can to avoid civilian casualties.
So what I've realized is, this inherently is the situation. I mean, it's really an oxymoron the more I think about it, because if you're saying they embed themselves within the population and they mix in the population, then of course you're going to bomb civilians if you're going after them, because you can't tell the difference. It's all is one. This even further supports everything I've said about, getting surgical and sending special forces versus, this carpet bombing mentality. Okay, let's listen to the rest of this.
Are you telling me
how many apartment blocks have been destroyed in Gaza already? Your satellite surveillance could probably count
that Hamas has
how many apartment buildings you have destroyed, how many civilian buildings you have destroyed in Gaza City
we don't target civilian structures.
Again, they're saying Hamas lives inside civilians, so obviously they live in the civilian structures, but then you're saying you don't target civilian structures, but you target Hamas strongholds, but then Hamas strongholds are the civilian structures, supposedly.
That is incorrect what you've said. We don't target civilian structures.
So what are those high-rise buildings we've seen destroyed? In Beit Hanun, on the border that I've seen with my own eyes.
They are Hamas targets.
What, all of the buildings?
What we target are Hamas strongholds.
There is some serious good reporting coming out these days. That was the BBC again, and the reporter from the BBC was talking to one of the security spokespeople for the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. And, again, I mean, like I said, you just got to listen to this stuff and decide what you think. Decide if the other side is being truthful. In that interview, for example, he just kept on. It's getting. I will say honestly, the answering Hamas to everything is getting a little bit old, and I think it's a cop out. I really do. I think it's a cop out. It's like any question. Just, I think the script book on their side is to mention the word Hamas. You just have to throw that in as many times as you can. And, she really was asking some good questions, trying to get him to differentiate between Hamas and the civilians, because again, all the civilian structures are what's getting bombed. There were several hospitals over the weekend that were bombed. I'm actually going to put that stuff together for an episode either tomorrow or Wednesday. And then, some UN schools were bombed, and like everything that's getting bombed, they're saying we had intelligence that there were Hamas strongholds there. And to date, none of that has been true. So it's like, come on, brah. Okay. So let's see. I want to play one more thing for you. This was in that same Piers Morgan segment with Brooke, and this guy, I'm not familiar with this guy, but he's on the pro-Palestine side. His name is Wajahit Ali, and then Piers asked him if he condemns Hamas, and I love his answer.
Let me say this, because Piers, I've seen your show. I appreciate.
Brooke, can you let Wajahit speak, please?
Do you condemn the Muslim Brotherhood?
Let me say this. I'm going to go a step forward. Look at this. This is what I'm going to do, because I've seen people with my melanin on Piers' show. I've proactively been asked to condemn Hamas. I condemn Hamas. I condemn Hezbollah. I condemn Islamic Jihad. I condemn Muslim Brotherhood. I condemn chocolate hummus. I condemn...
With a straight face, he condemned chocolate hummus as part of that.
chocolate hummus. I condemn anti-Semitism. I condemn Islamophobia. I condemn white supremacy. I also condemn Israel's occupation. I condemn settler violence against Palestinians that have killed over 100 people on the West Bank. I condemn Netanyahu using dehumanizing language that you use, such as calling every Palestinian Amalek. I condemn the heritage minister saying that he wants to drop a nuke on Gaza. I have condemned all of that. Do you, Brooke, join me in condemning everything that I have condemned? Because I think as a human rights lawyer, anyone who cares about humanity, they should condemn everything that I have condemned.
So she did not condemn it the way he did, although she did say 100%, but she then never actually said those words. Anyway, the chocolate hummus thing I thought was hilarious. All right, last clip, and then we're going to call it. So, this ceasefire talks and all this is really building. Last time, I think, maybe 2 episodes ago, I played you the soundbite from Emmanuel Macron and his interview with the BBC. And so here's Justin Trudeau. And, again, this is a little bit surprising because it's very different than what their stance has been. So now you've got Emmanuel Macron saying ceasefire, and then Justin Trudeau saying this.
The human tragedy that is unfolding in Gaza is heart-wrenching, especially the suffering we see in and around the Al-Shifa hospital. I have been clear that the price of justice cannot be the continued suffering of all Palestinian civilians. Even wars have rules. All innocent life is equal in worth, Israeli and Palestinian. I urge the government of Israel to exercise maximum restraint. As the world is watching on TV, on social media, we're hearing the testimonies of doctors, family members, survivors, kids who've lost their parents. The world is witnessing this, the killing of women and children, of babies. This has to stop.
Like I said, definitely pretty interesting that the countries that normally are united, United States, Canada, UK, and France, you heard from Macron, now you heard from Justin Trudeau. The only one that hasn't really said anything is Rishi Sunak from England. And then, there is conflicting stuff in terms of what Blinken and Biden and then John Kirby are saying. So I've got some of those clips I'll play. That's about it, everybody. Happy Monday. Have a great day. By the way, this week I'm also going to do my long-awaited segment on Julian Assange, which I think will be really interesting. It'll be part of the Deep Shallow Dives exclusives series. And that's about it. Hook a brother up with a review if you can. Call a spade a spade. Talk to you soon.
You have man boobs.
This episode was brought to you by Boost Liquid Vitamins. Wake up, take your Boost, start your day. Drink your vitamins, build your immune system with Boost. Available on Boost.com.